Hello?
Hello,
Hi.
good evening.
Hello, I'm Mary. Can you see me?
Yes, Mary, we can see you very well. Can you see us?
Yes, I can. I can see you. I can't see anybody. Oh, yes, I can. Here we are. Julian, I can see myself. Magdalene, yes, fine.
Good.
Great. I never know quite well. I'm always a bit nervous about what to press. Share screen, I press, don't I?
See you very well. Can you see us? Just
Yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. Here we are. Julian, I can see myself. Magdalene, yes, fine. Oh, there's quite a delay. I said that a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
And there might have
Is
been
that
a.
any-
I don't know if you're testing the recording there, Madeline, but I think there might have been a playback there.
no. It was because we're streaming live on YouTube as well,
Right.
so there's a delay with YouTube. That's
Ah.
what's happening. So I'm
Funny.
just trying to also
It's a nice blue square with nobody in it.
yeah. Is that
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Is it Shalomi?
Yeah, Shlomi, yes.
Hello, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Hi, Julian.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Many thanks for joining. And likewise, Mary and Armov, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
I've
you.
got mute written on mine, so I haven't pressed anything. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, well then, fine. Great. Okay.
How many people are expected?
I've returned from the blue depths. I'm here. Thank you everyone for having me. I'm honored, to be here, and I'm glad I made it. So let's do this. I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome.
Fantastic. We're just going to wait for a few more minutes and then we will kick start.
How many people are expected? Are you expecting?
Just a few, because we're streaming live as well on YouTube. So it's another few. So we still have some of us who haven't come in yet. So we'll give them a few more minutes and then we'll start.
Okay. How's everyone? How you guys doing?
We're fine.
You guys doing all right? Yeah.
Yes. Very well, thank you. Just bear with me a second.
Hoping, I think we are. How's everything with yourself over there?
The weather, man. It just dropped like 30 degrees overnight.
All right.
And,
Where are you?
That's pretty
Where are
exciting.
you?
I'm
Where
in
are you?
Houston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
I had
But
somebody
kind of
cancel a lesson from LA at the weekend because the winds were so high and all the lines were down.
Oh, wow.
That's a long way away. I think of America everywhere being near each other, and it's not.
Yeah, well, we're basically, thanks to things like this, doesn't seem like we're far away.
No.
You know what I mean?
Typically.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what time is it over there? What time is it right now?
It is currently 1.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So that's 5 hours backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes when I get emails like from you guys, like I'll get it right around 3 a.m., like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. You know what I mean? And
You have to remember to leave your electronic things downstairs and not next to your bed. That's the thing.
Right. I always try to I'm trying to go to bed, but it never happens.
I'll apologize if I woke you up with any emails then.
No, that's not. I'm not even saying that. I'm just I'm not used to it, and I'm like, oh wow, they're all the way in London.
That's good. I think we'll give it 2 minutes past 6 now. We'll give it another 3 minutes and then we're gonna kick start. So if you want to grab a cup of tea, water, coffee.
Go and get some different glasses, I think.
How long have you guys been doing this music relief project?
I will tell you more when I do the introduction.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Hey, Shana, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very well, very well. It's going to be a good night.
Or good afternoon for Armov, I think.
What was that?
Good afternoon for you, I suppose.
Yes, yes. So it's the evening for you guys, right?
Yeah, that's all right.
Hmm.
Nearly bedtime.
Yeah.
Really? 6 o'clock?
Well, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. I'm exhausted.
Oh,
Been a
okay.
long day. I've got 3 kids here,
Oh,
All right.
I got you.
and they're on half-term break, so that means pretty much tending to their needs most of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Good luck.
Can
Sound
definitely.
like being there, come out the other side. It gets better.
Right. Well, it's good to hear that, to be reminded sometimes.
What age group are they?
They're 7, 5, and 2.
Oh, wow.
You should have known better. No sympathy.
I wish I had control, but there's hard to control those things.
Is this going out streaming now or not?
It's streaming, but what we'll do, we'll edit.
I was going to be a bit careful what I said then, don't worry.
That's true. So who is expected to watch? May I be informed about the crowd we're broadcasting to?
So we are broadcasting to obviously our subscribers, but we'll also be promoting it after the whole event to the wider audience as well. So obviously tonight is definitely about a wrap up of the month of October, where we've themed it as Musictober. And I guess let me just do the introduction and just start. It's 5 minutes past,
Okay.
so it's best to just kickstart it.
Mhm.
All right.
So good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming online. So my name is Magdalene Adenaike, and I am the founder and chief executive of Music Relief Foundation. Music Relief Foundation is a youth charity, and we've been in existence for 9.5 years, and we work and support young people, primarily in Croydon. Croydon is South London, so because we are located in Croydon, and we've been serving the Croydon community, but we are expanding and extending our reach so that it's not just a Croydon-centric charity. Over the years, we've worked with so many young people in schools and within the community through the various services that we provide. And it has been phenomenal to kind of see the impact where you have young people coming on board and you see the transformation with young people as well, which is fantastic. And so, okay, fantastic, thank you. So that kind of took me off track a little, but never mind. Yeah, so we've been working and supporting young people within schools and within the community. So when I talk about schools, we run workshops in schools, workshops that are intervention based, where schools identify young people who they class as either already involved in criminal activities or at risk of becoming involved with criminal activities. And so we run kind of intervention workshops to support them. We also do after school clubs activities. One of the key things that we offer for after school club is fencing, because it's good to just kind of get young people moving. We also provide, obviously, the clues in the name, music lessons as well. And we work within as well, working and supporting young women who have been trafficked or women who have been entangled with drugs as well. And so this year, primarily, we one of the key things that we wanted to do this year was to be able to expand our reach. I told you we've been in Croydon for obviously since the whole duration of existence. We wanted to expand our reach, and so this year we called this year our year of impact. And with that was to expand our reach and to go outside of the borough and reach out to other young people and other organizations as well. But obviously we know what's happened this year with COVID, but nonetheless do a little bit by expanding our reach and we then moved online. So with the online provision, because being a small charity, we've always been face-to-face all along. But when we moved online, we were able to expand it even further, because that way we were able to reach other people who may not have been able to engage with our services on a face-to-face activity, which has been great. During lockdown, we were providing workshops, online workshops, 5 days a week for 9 weeks. So service workshops such as guitar lessons, vocal lessons, keyboard, drumming, and virtual reality. And that went on for 9 weeks. And at the end of it, we did a virtual concert, which was fantastic. In this year, last year, October, we finally became a charity after trials for over 2 years, but we finally got the approval last year, October, which was fantastic for us. And in July, we got our first patron, CC Sami. She will be coming on later on at 6:30. Unfortunately, she's gone away for the half term. And so where she is, the network is really terrible. So she's going to be calling through either to my phone or to Julian's number to speak to her. So unfortunately, she won't be able to come online because her network is not really good. But CC Sami is our first patron, and we're really, really excited about the fact that she agreed to come online, to come on board with us. And so every month since August, we've been working on themes and kind of tagging each month with a theme. In August, we called it the month of choices. September was all about mental health, and we had our first ever webinar in September last month. And this month, now, like I said earlier on, is Musictober, and it's all things music, and talking about how music has obviously impacted the individual and the power of music and everything that music symbolizes. And so it's not just a case that we focus on the month's theme and then we don't say, thank you very much, Bob, your uncle, we'll move on. But it's a case of we highlight certain issues for each month and then obviously move on to something else. But while still working on all the issues, mental health is not something that was only just, okay, we talk about mental health in September and that's it, that's Bob's your uncle, mental health is done. We know that it's affecting many people, and also because of COVID, it's even more highlighted now, and the issues that many people are going through as a result of COVID and all other issues that they may be experiencing as well. And so with that being said, I would like to now pass on to Julian, who is our host for tonight, to get the ball rolling. And then we have one of our ambassadors here who will also, if she has any questions, you can ask. If she has questions, she can ask people, or if you have any questions, obviously for young people, please do. Let's talk, let's engage, because once this goes out and we begin to share it, I know that many other people will have questions and things that they would want to ask, or opinions of things that they would like to express. So Julian, do you want to take over?
Thanks, Madeline. Firstly, apologies if you hear excessive sirens or horns or aggressive drivers outside. I'm in the front room of my house. We're on a main road, which is always noisy, but the perils of home life or working from home, I suppose, nowadays. Echoing from what Madeline said, a massive thank you to all of you attending and those watching live on YouTube or elsewhere. Exciting, I think, evening ahead. Focusing around the power of music, as Madeline said. We've got 4 speakers today, hearing from teachers, those within music therapy, singing teacher as well, and also vocal coach as our guest speaker, CC Sami, later on. I think we can, without further ado, go straight in. We'll hear, firstly, I'll go straight into speak with friendly Armov, who's dialed in all the way from the US. Just a general question, and I think first it'd be great, though, I think for yourself to give everyone an introduction of sort of who you are and what you do, but then also how much do you think music has had an impact on your life? That's okay.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Julian. And earlier I sent him an email when I noticed that anyway, I want to apologize once again for being a slightly poor communicator. I'm usually better at that, but thank you again for having me, Magdalene, Julian. So it's a great honor. And I'm Armov. Armov is my stage name. I was born Armen Gergen Robertovich Movsesyan. My parents are Armenian, and by descent, by blood. I was born, however, in Sochi, Russia. So the middle name Robertovich, that came from our wanting me to be a little more accepted by the Russian people, as it were. So, but I shortened all of that down to Armavs because it was basically impossible to get people to say it right or forget about spelling it. So, but I'm currently, so I'll make my introduction really brief. So I guess let's skip all the way to my undergrad years. I went to Los Angeles to USC to get my bachelor's in music in the wonderful studio guitar and jazz guitar program there. And then I jumped to Dallas to University of North Texas, which is the first, I believe, jazz program in the United States to have been created. So I was very honored to have been involved there with their wonderful faculty. Also did a little bit of teaching fellow work there with them as well. And jump back to today, I'm back in Houston, to where I originally moved to from Sochi with my parents. And so my parents live here. We kind of have like a home base right here. And now I'm very fortunate to have reconnected with many musicians down here. We're prolific on the scene. We virtually play. We have weekly gigs every day of the week, and it's been really, really a blessing because, as you've been saying, you know, it's really tough with the COVID situation. It's really, really tough because we have fantastic musicians in Houston who are not gigging, and it's insane to really to put things in perspective. I mean, these are world-class musicians that you would see like in Carnegie Hall and stuff, and they're not gigging. So again, I'm really blessed that I am. So how has music impacted me, right? Was that the question? Or what is the bigger impact of music on my life?
Yeah, exactly. How has music impacted your life?
Well, first and foremost, I am from a very musical family. My entire family actually either plays music or writes or sings or dances, violin, piano, guitar, flute, traditional instruments, etc. And so I think it was pretty much inevitable for me to be involved in some sort of fashion with music. But moreover, I'm not being facetious when I say this. I truly believe in terms of things in this realm of existence that have power that we can observe. Music is at the top, I would say, in terms of its effect, in terms of its power. I would dare say that it's perhaps magical. I would go so far as to say it's probably the highest form of magic that we are able to utilize effectively on this planet. I mean, and as you guys know, I know you guys are all brilliant people. Like, music is actually you can quite literally control people with it, for whether that's good or bad. So that really says something about it. And I don't think I would be doing absolutely anything else. And sometimes it's a struggle, but it's not even that big of a struggle, you know. The fact that I can play music for a living, but moreover, it's, you know, it's like when you miss somebody, when you really love somebody and you miss them and they've been far away for a long time, that's what I feel like when I'm not around music. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty much the biggest part of my life is music. And I don't know if I'm doing a great job of like effectively communicating its import to me, but it's kind of difficult to put into words, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely understand. No.
Yeah, so I'm gonna end it with this. It's in my opinion pure magic. Okay, and for us to to belittle or to underestimate the effect of music that it has on our society and on the human race. It would be foolish. You know? So, yeah, that's if you want me to elaborate a little further, but I think that's the gist of it.
Great. No, I think, yeah, we'll go straight into that really, because I wanted to ask then, in terms of those with whom you've worked with, either students or in your group, what sort of impact have you seen music have on those people?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now because this is relevant. Basically, I've realized that because I have the opportunity to play nightly and to interact with people, during this weird time, I've noticed that basically people are dying to get out. Okay, people are dying to do something because it's tough. You know, being at home for a lot of people, being at home with their feelings, with themselves, and so it's actually been, I believe, judging from the twinkle I see in people's eye and just their smiles, I think it's actually been a blessing to them. And I think that my music and my work that I do with my musicians is bringing a lot of happiness, hopefully, to these people. So I do see a tremendous impact that music is having on the community of Rhode to get through this together. And furthermore, I think this is as difficult as a time as this is. I think this is an opportunity to actually strengthen the music community through things like this, like the music relief program you guys are running, because it can be tempting to sit with darkness, because it can almost get comfortable to sit with darkness and to let it loom over you. But if we can still be sad, but also just keep pushing, you know, not to discredit anybody's feelings during these times. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be sad. I'm saying you can be sad, but let's push through, because I think that if we push through and continue to strengthen the music community during this time, once we're out of this, I think it's going to be amazing. Like we will be positioned to really do even greater things in the future.
Right, lovely. That's interesting though, when you're talking about sort of bringing people together, particularly through music. And I think from my understanding, that's something that you do in terms of blending different cultural music together too. I guess, yeah, still on that kind of theme and what you mentioned there, I mean, how much of a role, and it sounds as though quite a big role, without going too far into your answer already, you think music plays in bringing together people and perhaps cultures and groups in times?
Well, if we look at it like ethnomusicologically, you know, it's like from the earliest point in Homo sapien history, you know, it appears as though music has been integral as a ritualistic element in all sorts of rituals, whether it's specifically religious in nature or ceremonial or what have you. So, I mean, some of the earliest instruments we know were like things like flutes, you know, just basically cylinders with holes in it that people would try to create, you know, sounds with. And I think that I'm not sure on like the real spiritual source of this, but I think that music is pretty much genetically encoded in us in some sense. If you really look at the science behind just how a frequency reverberates in our brain and how it can instantaneously change the waveform of our brain activity, like this, you know, that is like, that's pretty mind-boggling. So, remind me your question specifically. I'm getting really excited.
No problem. So it's all about really how music brings people together, and you're hitting
Yeah,
the nail.
yeah. It's genetic. It's like you can't help yourself. Like, how many times have you seen people just lose it when they hear a really strong beat? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about when I say it's magic. So it's like breathing, is what I would say, really.
Brilliant. Lovely. Well, no, those were the questions that I had for you, and I can see the passion, or maybe it's the midday light over there, but I think it's the passion of the music that you have, and it's beautiful.
Well, I'm getting pumped. I have a gig in a few hours. I'm pumping myself up. So
lovely.
Don't mind me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Armov.
Very welcome.
Brilliant words. Great. I think on that, it's kind of perfectly tied us over into sort of our next speaker, Shlomi. So some of the things that you were talking about, Armov, around, I suppose, the impact biologically that music has. And Shlomi, I won't go too far into your work straight away, but in the same light, could you sort of introduce yourself and the work that you do? And again, similarly, like I answered with Armov, how much or sort of what impact has music had on your life?
Right. Okay. Well, I hope that I can bring the same enthusiasm into my little speech, because it's kind of evening time here. But yeah, I mean, I was identifying with a lot of things you were saying, in terms of, you know, the music being genetically coded in a sense, and also that it defines you. It sounded like I can identify with that. It defines me as a person. I've grown up since age probably 6 playing music. I was fortunate enough that my parents, who actually were deprived of any sort of education, saw the importance to bring me and my sisters this special thing into our lives. And that involved, basically it started with a piano tutor who came to our home, and after a year or so she recommended for me to go to a big conservatoire, like the old school building that provides music education. And it was a very inspiring beginning of a long, like, lifetime journey for me. You know, I started as a piano student, then I took some new instruments. I started playing the trumpet, and I started teaching myself to play the guitar, and I became this young multi-instrumentalist. And that's what I was doing in my teenage years. I was just playing music with friends, connecting with people through music. And I think if you do that in your youth, it must be something for life. There's something I don't know if you said about missing music, like almost like personifying the music in your life, and I kind of completely relate to that. It's almost like a relationship with somebody, and it comes and goes. And there were phases in my life where music wasn't accessible in a sense. I don't know what it is, but you could have also some sort of animosity with it. You know, you can feel that you're not relating to an instrument, or you don't want to play it for a while, and you just don't do it. But there's this feeling that after a while you're like, oh my God, I really miss the piano. I really want to play it again. So that's what happened to me actually at some point in my life. I remember, so you see, my dad was driving me to this conservatoire, to this music school, like 3 days a week, back and forth for a whole decade. And such a devotion. I'm thinking about the devotion. I mean, he would sleep in the car while I was having my lessons there and taking me back. And then a decade later, he sat me down and said, we have to have a chat, son. And he said, you know, you shouldn't make the choice of turning music into a career, because the real money is in IT. And he's not a kind of materialistic type of a father, but he probably was genuinely concerned if I could actually earn a living from this. But I think by that point, I kind of had my mind made up, and I chose as my undergraduate psychology to be my main topic, my main subject. And that's because I had this growing passion into the human psychology, and to try and understand what drives people, what drives me. You know, what makes people behave in a certain way? How does the history of a person shape their being in the present time? So all these questions started pounding in me, and I wanted to learn about this. And so I spent 3 years in university doing psychology. By the end of it, I realized I did not lay a finger on the piano, and I really missed it. So it was like a point of frustration, because I thought I couldn't probably do pure psychology as a career and be satisfied. There has to be music involved in my future. So I took a gap year from university, and I started traveling. I traveled in India, immersed myself in these beautiful landscapes, and I had my guitar on my back, and I was playing a lot, inspired, finding new harmonies, singing, composing. Found myself in queues to bus journeys, surrounded by Indian people, you know, asking me for another song, singing songs for them, people clapping, and it was just really fun, you know, to go back to feeling that musician self of myself, and reconnecting with that. And I knew by that point that I had to somehow combine psychology and music into my future. But I didn't know whether there was such a profession existed. And it wasn't long after, about a year later, I think, I just chanced on this computerized career advisor you see in libraries, where you're being asked like hundreds of questions. They seem irrelevant, but at the end of it, there's an output with a list of professions that might be suitable for you. And one of them was music therapy. I was like, oh, what's that? And I started reading, and the more I read about it, I realized that this is the profession for me. What it meant was that, you know, I can improve people's well-being through use of music, playing music. It sounded fantastic. So that's when I applied for the postgraduate course, music therapy course at Roehampton University in South London, and it was a transformational experience on both musical and personal levels. I learned how to use music as a medium for inviting people into emotive conversations, in a sense, and to me is the most profound way to be using music. That's my life, that's my job, that's my career. I think I proved my dad wrong. That's for sure. Yeah, I think that's in a nutshell. I feel like I've kind of made a full circle to come to use music in a therapeutic way, in a profound way, and understanding people through music, providing them some relief through music.
Lovely. Thanks, Shlomi. That's really interesting.
Anybody hearing a strange noise, or is it just me?
Yeah, I'm hearing a noise too.
Sounds like a toilet flushing, doesn't it?
Perhaps you can mute our microphones if we don't speak or something.
Yeah. Is everyone able to go? There you go. It might have been. I think it's sorted and gone. Great. No, thanks, Shlomi. Again, another really interesting background and what you're working on. Yeah, I'd love to hear a bit more about that. So, particularly as to sort of how much you think music then acts as a therapy to benefit people, and particularly those with mental health issues, based on your experiences and what you've seen.
Shall I jump straight in to the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, I was trying to consider how shall I tackle this question, and I kind of thought that you know, that picture worth 1,000 words, and maybe a video can do the same effect. So I prepared this video, and I thought I could share it with you.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example of what happens in a music therapy session, and we can try and draw some of the key principles that make music therapeutic in a therapy setting. Just a quick introduction. So you're going to see a child in a room with me. And this child happens to suffer from autistic spectrum disorder, or ASD. and that affects his ability to relate to people, make eye contact, to acknowledge that they are there in the room with him, to understand how they feel or how he feels, to make sense of his experiences in the world. And as a result, all of his human development milestones are delayed. Now, on top of that, he came from a broken house, broken home, and he was exposed to domestic violence at some point in his life, which made therapy even more complex matter. And around the time that the video was taken, he would tuck his hands inside his shirt away, so he wouldn't use his hands in any setting. He would avoid the use of his hands. And in my sessions, I was trying to reflect on why he would do that. That's how I would describe part of my role, to think about his experience, what makes him behave the way he does, or make choices that he makes. And I was often thinking about maybe that he might be feeling ashamed or not deeming himself useful for others, so he was tucking his hands away. He couldn't do anything useful. And sometimes he would get so frustrated he might hit somebody. Maybe he wanted to protect the environment from his lashing out at others. So all of this is in my mind. And so when you watch this video, I experience a massive achievement, as you will see him using his fingers to strum my guitar when I leave spaces for him. And there's a second clip where we change position. I'm not in the frame. I'll be playing piano in the background, but you will see him probing for the harp, like a mini harp, and he will be using his hands sporadically to kind of create phrases to which I respond from the piano, and we create this piece of music together, if you like. So I'll play it. I hope it works. So what we need to do is mute everyone, I think, and I'll share this video, okay? Nathan plays guitar. Nathan plays guitar, guitar, guitar. La da 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 da. Your turn to play. Yeah. Did you hear that? Did you?
Yeah, that worked perfectly.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yeah, so that was a bit of a glimpse into a music therapy session, and I'm happy to receive questions later, but I can kind of try and sum up some of the key principles of what you've seen. So like Armov was saying, the main tenet that music therapy is based on is the idea of an inborn musicality. So there's no expectation of a person not having a pre-knowledge of music or a skill of playing music. We assume there's an assumption that or knowledge that every person has a certain beat that they bring into the session, a certain vocal sounds that they make, and it's all music because it's based on the idea that well, in fact, when I trained as a music therapist, we all had to sit weekly with a mother and child, a baby, and observe their interactions over a long stretch of time, once weekly, and to write an assignment about it. And the idea was to start seeing how the earliest form of communication, especially around the most immediate needs for survival, occurs through vocalizing and singing rather than actual verbal language. Obviously, it precedes language. So the baby and their parent interact, and over time, the parent learns how to kind of decipher the different tunes and respond appropriately to the baby's needs. So that kind of analogy, we can relate to that analogy in the sense of music therapy and what it provides. We listen to what sounds the client is making. Sometimes those sounds go lost in a sense or go unnoticed in other settings. No one pays attention. They've been doing that for a long time. And in music therapy, suddenly there's this kind of person who really takes it on board and responds appropriately. And the person knows. They know that they're being listened to. And what happens is a trust starts developing. They feel they can trust the music, they can trust the therapist, and they're allowing themselves to show who they are. The music evolves, it develops, the language develops between a therapist and a client, like you saw in the clip. And yeah, another concept is that the music is mainly improvised in most cases, and it's kind of tailored for a social end or target. The idea is that music is flexible, it's adaptive. I get a sense of mood or vibe in the room, and I try and respond to that. And instantly the client feels affirmed, their existence, their being is affirmed. So that already is a good starting point to build a relationship, which is a very particular kind of relationship. It's a therapeutic relationship, one where I wear the hat of a therapist. Like, think about every little expression that I come across and I try and give it meaning. Sometimes I think about, just again to draw that analogy, if you think about the baby who smiles involuntarily in the first few months of their existence, and the joyous parents who kind of shout, "Oh wow, look, he's just smiled." And over time, the baby's brain starts developing that connection that whenever they, make that thing, that smile, there's a reaction. And that's how we share feelings in the first few months of our lives. And that's how we share feelings or affect through music, also in music therapy. Yeah, I think that's in a nutshell. There's obviously many more principles, but I think I'll leave it there just for you to kind of take on board and see what you want to make of it.
Thank you, Shlomi. Yeah, no, powerful principles just in those few, and that video was amazing to see.
Thank you.
I mean, I wonder though, what do you think of the level of awareness, and whether you think there is enough awareness as to the therapeutic nature of music in society, and if not, sort of what improvements do you think could be made to raise awareness of it?
Well, first of all, music therapy is a growing profession worldwide and also in the UK. It is also a regulated profession by the Health and Care Professions Council. which means that it's a registered title, and it's widely kind of employed in the NHS, in the private sector. You will find nowadays, you could probably find music therapists almost everywhere, and they will be working with most client groups, with any client group. It could be with trauma or adoption, mental health, learning disabilities. I personally worked in neuro rehabilitation with adults after brain injuries. So that's to name a few. Of course, that awareness always needs to be growing, and accessibility to the medium needs to be made easier. And I think there's still confusion. So in society, I guess, with people about what music therapy is, that even if you heard about it, you might still think that it's some form of tutorial, you know, where a person picks up an instrument or a skill on an instrument, but it's not. As you saw, and the way I was referring to it, it's a psychological sort of platform to address certain issues, and to enable a person to grow their personality and you know, their well-being. And I think still in society, there's a lot of stigmas attached to psychological interventions, and talking about feelings, especially, but not only for men. And it's hard nowadays, in the way, the pace that our world operates, I think, to commit to a long-term process like a therapy that is not quantifiable. You know, it's not something that you can say, oh, look, I've got a certificate, or, you know, it gives me a job, or it's hard to quantify. And especially now in the NHS here in England, there's a lot of funding cuts, and there's more emphasis on short-term therapeutic interventions. So I think it's becoming more of a problem. So I think there's more need to try and promote the benefits of interventions like art therapy, music therapy, and that's what the British Association of Music Therapy is aiming to do, and always around the clock doing. But actually, I came across on your website an interview with a footballer to talk about reducing knife crime and crime around London, and how football is a positive thing. And it made me think about asking celebrities to share their experiences with therapy. And I'm sure people have access therapy once or twice in their lives. It's not that uncommon. So I'm thinking how that could actually, celebrities talking about their journeys in therapy and how it enabled them to achieve things in life, could actually provide a model for people who are in a disadvantaged position.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that, given the love of music that there is around the world, that part or stream of music around the therapeutic nature of it, definitely, given the impact that it has, more needs to be done. I completely agree with your point, Shlomi. And once again, like with Armov, thank you very much. And it's great to see the passion that you have for that field. And yeah, it's been brilliant to have you today and to share what you've shown. It's absolutely fantastic. And I think, interesting, along the lines of, everyone loves music, and I'm sure many of us always want to get involved in music in some way, be it in our showers or when no one's looking in the kitchen and radio rooms. And that kind of leads us on to myself speaking with Mary. Welcome, Mary, and thank you again for joining. Yourself, I'm not going to go too far into your role and sort of what you do, but sort of as a singing teacher and working with people looking to get into music and I suppose explore music in certain ways. Again, similar to how I've asked Armov and Shlomi, if you could give an introduction about yourself and what you do, and particularly about, I guess, as well, how music, or what impact music has had on your life. I think you might be on mute if you're just taking that off. Oh.
Unmute. Is that okay now? Shit.
Yeah, perfect.
It's okay now?
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Oh, goodness, sorry. Shlomi, I just want to tell you that my niece did the same course as you, and she's a music therapist, and she did the same one at Roehampton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Yeah, and I've talked to her a lot about it. I really value what you're doing. I think it's fantastic.
I'm almost convinced that I probably know her. It's a small community.
But probably not. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks for letting me know.
I was going to say, Julian, you asked me what the impact was in my life. And I made a couple of notes, actually, because I often find I waffle. And I was trying not to. You see, it's my whole life and career has been music. You know, I mean, I can't separate the two. But then I thought, I just wanted to say I don't come from a wealthy background at all, which somebody else spoke about. But luckily, I had opportunities through government funding, so I'm going to say that. So I did go to the Royal Academy of Music, the old one that you said you probably went to, but that was all paid for, plus all my things. And actually, I would never have been able to do anything without all of that. So I feel so strongly about how things are going now, you know, and how much we need to make music something that doesn't rely just on people having lots of money. I also wanted to say that, you know, so I thought about how did I come to do music? Well, for a start, it's about the only thing I could do, the only thing I was really good at. But when I was growing up, I was thinking of the things of you said you had a demographic of 8 to 25-year-olds, and I was thinking of all the things that I did that I'd pass on if it was useful. I found out being in choirs at school. I belonged to Bristol Youth Choir. I belonged to Bristol School's orchestra, playing the cellist. I wasn't very good, but I subsequently married an orchestral musician who's a cellist, so everything comes useful, doesn't it, really? I found this helped me find things in common and a feeling of belonging. And I think when you're growing up, you know, you sometimes, you know, find it quite hard to find your place, don't you, really? And I find that for me, music was, and doing all those things made me fit in much more and be able to do it. I think it's an emotive force. It raises emotions in us. For example, love, joy, happiness, all those things. It can be uplifting and it can change your mood. You know, equally, if you feel down and you need space, you've got a moment to sort of think about how you're feeling. How I got into all this, I was a session singer for nearly 25 years before I started teaching, although I did both alongside. And it was in a prolific time in London. I was very lucky. I don't think I was a fantastic singer, but I've got pitch. I'm a quick musician. I always say I'm quite a good musician for a singer. And so I did everything from heavy rock right through to Covent Garden, really, which I didn't fit in at all. But I loved it. So basically, I got very interested in playing with voice and playing with my own sound, which subsequently took me to an interest in voice science and physiology and understanding how things were made. So I was one of the first people for the British Voice Research Society. And I'm touching on that because the previous speakers have talked about the physiology and the science and understanding how the brain works and its relationship with music. And there's a lot of research with that in singing as well, which is really interesting and still quite new. I love all styles of music. I wish we didn't have labels, you know. Classical music sounds sort of like something like, you know, you don't want to avoid. And yet some of my best memories of being, my husband was in the London Philharmonic and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Some of my best memories are going to big orchestral concerts. If you've ever been to a Mahler concert, I mean, some of you are nodding. I mean, that's the most orgasmic experience you can imagine. Years ago, they used to have a program in London where all the London schools were taken on a Saturday one by one to hear a London orchestra on a Saturday morning. That hasn't happened for years, which is tragic because there's nothing like a live music experience. I'm sure everybody agrees with that. And that gives, if you are a writer of pop in all its different forms, it can give your ear something else to listen to in terms of chordal structure, all kinds of things. So, you know, I think that I wrote down that I find it really difficult to separate a career path from my relationship with music because it's just been always there. I've been really lucky, actually. I really think so because I sort of work pretty consistently, actually. And then by a complete sort of kind of accident, I'm running things on, actually, the questions you asked me. I knew the musical director of the Les Miserables 25 years ago who asked me, I was the first coach on it, didn't know what I was doing. And it was all very new and the whole way people were singing and all the things people had been all brought up to were all quite new. So by accident for about 10 years. There wasn't really anybody around. I did all the big New London shows. So that took me into an area that I wasn't expecting at all, but means that you have the advantage of sitting to fantastic people and listening to not only the performance, but that marriage of language and music that's so important to me. Is that making sense?
Yeah, completely.
So in a way, I've sort of done a bit of all of it. I should see other musicians mention that we all ran a summer school of Baroque music. My husband was one of the original players of viols, actually. So we did that. When you were talking about instruments, I mean, I've had early music sort of shawms and all kinds of things in our house, you know, and so I'm very familiar with not quite what you're talking about, but music of the 16th century. In fact, in this room, I've got a 1680 viola da gamba. And so, you know, again, and a harpsichord. But on the other hand, I also was standing on the stage at at Glastonbury last year. So I have this very schizophrenic music love of lots of different kinds of music, which I love. And each thing brings out a different part of me. Sometimes I feel almost that I'm transported with some kind of music that makes me feel I'm almost levitating. Another time I've got that pulsation of rhythm and everything that you were talking about off inside me that I want to respond to. So I couldn't say ever that there was a favorite kind of music, except I'm lucky enough to be involved in all of it. And I do, when I say I teach all of it, I wouldn't be teaching how to write commercial music. That's not my skill at all, but it's to support it. And yeah, I'm a believer in practice. Call me old-fashioned. I always say if people come, I say, God, I'm a boring teacher. I expect you to really practice. And I wrote down and said, if you want to go into this industry, you need to try to be whatever you choose to be as good as you can be. But I don't think that is necessarily the what I think is important. If you're going to go into it, so be it. But really, whatever you do, whatever level you're doing, I mean, if you're doing a karaoke evening and you come off the stage, you see people really lifted and happy because they've experienced that surge of actually sort of singing to people. And one of you reacted, I think, Alma, too, about the feeling you get from the reaction you get from people. And I always think that's quite scary when people start writing music, because it's sometimes a long time to people really want to love their music as much as they do. I do teach entirely professionally. I have to be honest. I did say that to you. I think that I'm a great believer in practice, and that was in big letters. And I think you need to be as good as you can be, whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter at what level you're at all. I think you've just tried to do it as well as you can. I think in all of this, I think it came from the other two speakers. I think you should have fun. You know, it's fun sometimes, particularly. I helped, I ran for a long time. It's now a master's program, a postgraduate course in music therapy, in music theatre at the Royal Academy of Music. And I was asked to set it up. I thought, oh my God, an institution, no thank you. And everybody was saying, but you've got to change people's ideas with music. And they were just starting, there was a jazz course starting there and looking at other ways of producing sound. And I've got fascinated by that. Unfortunately, because I worked in so many different genres, I'm not scared of trying it. You know what I mean? I can sort of live with any kind of style of music there is. You know, and when I'm sent from managements, people with new writing, somebody today in the States, actually, because they wanted me to help us with a particular management. And this bouncy young girl and everything, she's got a great voice. But I mean, my job was to make sure that if she's on tour, when this goes away, which it will, in a year's time, whenever it might be, that she'll have the voice to be able to sing for an hour without losing her voice. So I hope that wasn't too rambly. Do you want to pick me up on anything?
No, not too rambly, but yeah, no, a good few, really a lot of interesting points, almost as I think the experience that you have across the different areas sounds incredible. I think particularly on those who you've worked with, it'd be interesting to hear about how you've seen music really transform the lives of those that you've worked with?
They become multimillionaires.
Yeah.
I did say to Julian at the beginning, I'm not trying to be precious, but I'm not prepared to name names because I feel it's unprofessional. And I think people come and feel very secure in your presence, you know, when they have a lesson. And I don't want them to feel in any way you're gossiping about them. I see the difficulty of keeping new music out there. You know, as I work with one group, I've worked for nearly 20 years, and I mean, they've done extremely well, but I'm constantly looking for inventing, sort of developing, having new influences. It's really, really interesting. And I've seen the joy, I've seen the pain and the frustration of that as well. I've also seen the enormous discipline that most people that have done okay do. You know, that the fact that years ago, we all know that rock and roll, it was quite normal for people to sort of take a lot of drugs, take a lot of substances, and you'd be surprised at how much more clean living this industry is, because it's nothing to do with me. I always point out and say, this is what it does to your vocal folds. This dries it. You know, if you do this, this is the effect it has on it. So if you want to be as good as you can be, quite a good idea not to do that. But I always feel if you lecture people, if you're like me, you'd immediately want to do it, because so in actual fact, all you can do is point that out, and people have to find that for themselves. So people do go to bed earlier if they've got a big gig the next day. They don't eat late at night because they're told that produces acid reflux and it's not a good idea. So try and think about that. So they do look at diet, they do look at the amount of water they drink. All these things are well documented now, but over the years. And if you went backstage now to, not backstage, either in theatre or on tour, you'll find all the things in the dressing rooms have completely changed. It used to be, you know, chocolate and Coca-Cola. It probably still is a bit, you know, and whatever. Now it's all this healthy stuff. Doesn't matter who they are. And it's all left behind. Lots of fruit and yogurt. No, not yogurt. It's not good for singing. But all healthy stuff is left backstage. It's quite interesting. I'm not exaggerating, I promise you. And that's not all the big people as well. It's generally, and you know, when I start teaching people, I send them pictures of the vocal folds and I explain what the mechanism is. So in a way, learning how to practice and the effect it has doesn't have to be such a mystery, because like if we learn the piano, you know, we sort of learn that if we actually practice, you know, that our fingers will find the right places, and we do that for long enough. But with singing, it's only a certain amount you can see if you look in a mirror, you know, so it's quite useful to have some idea of what in actual fact your instrument looks like. So if you're doing an exercise like that's your vocal cords coming together, we call them folds these days. I also do a fair amount of remedial work, which sounds very clever, but it's not really. And you go to an ENT place and you can look down and see exactly what's happening. It's fascinating. So we have much more information now than we need. I hope I haven't jumped from thing to thing to thing. But I suppose, yes, I've had many years of a lot of experience, but I am very glad that I had a lot of experience as a singer before I did all this. I also know what it's like to stand on stage and forget my words. I also know what it's like to stand on stage and feel really, really nervous, you know, and arrive somewhere to rehearsal and feel I've got the wrong clothes on. All those kind of things that, you know, really matter when you're learning your trade. And by the way, I had to have a couple of kids at the same time. I say that for the women who also say to me, how did you manage all that, Mary? And I say, just very hard work. As I said, I'm married to an orchestral player, and that's been a pleasure as well, because I've listened to lots and lots of music because of Peter's involvement with fantastic. I mean, you know, when we did sessions, guys, we were conducted by Abado, and we stood next to Pavarotti and Domingo. I mean, we've been so lucky. All the influence of good practice that you've had, you know, in that particular era was, and of course now, but we were so lucky to think that those sounds are in your ear of really good practice, you know. Then at the other end of the scale, we were doing, I did a Frank Zappa thing. I mean, that's forever ago. But all those, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I did, which I loved, guys, we did probably late 80s, early 90s, was Rick Wakeman, who used to work with a group called Yes. we did all his albums where you stood there with the London Symphony Orchestra around you, about 8 of us, and the best rock group that there was behind you. And that is the most orgasmic sound that you could ever hear, to be surrounded by a huge symphony orchestra and a brilliant rock group behind you. I remember that as one of the most exciting sounds I've ever heard. I'll shut up now.
Incredible. No, amazing, Mary. Amazing. I think that you found a fan in a big fan in Armov, I think, when you mentioned some of the pieces there. It's incredible. I think one of the things, I just wanted to hear a little bit as well about the challenges that you've seen, or generally, I suppose, that you've experienced too, particularly mentally.
Well, one of the challenges was in my era being a female in a male-dominated thing, Michelle, Magdalene, but we'll talk about that another time. But I managed it. I tell you what I have written down. I wonder if you guys agree with me. I've put, to make a career, only do this if you absolutely must. If you say, shall I, you don't want it enough. That's what my husband's always said, actually, because he comes from Bermondsey, from a working class background. Both of us do. You know, so, you know, we had nobody to sell the house and give us any money or help us. I mean, they did in every way they could, like your parents in, you know, I had piano lessons and things like that, but and so much encouragement. But I've written down that the pressures, I got this actually from Spotify's actually got some stuff on this actually about pressures being a musician, and I actually nicked it actually. Financial instability is quite a big thing. Performance and resonating with audiences. It's quite scary to know whether people are going to like you. You know, I always say you stand out on the stage, you say, okay, crucify me. You know, here I am, you know, throw things, here I am. You know, it takes a lot of guts, you know, whatever stage you're at, even if you're the local dancing school and, you know, you've got to go, you're going to do a performance, you know, it takes courage. So all of you out there that are going to the, to your classes, you know, just practice and be as good as you can. But the most important thing is enjoy it. I'm looking at right at the end of the spectrum, if you're tempted to think, I want to do this. So people want their music thought to be good. And sometimes that doesn't happen, or it hasn't happened for a long time. And that can really hurt because you're giving your soul, aren't you? You know, giving of yourself. And I think that's really hard. I also wrote it's thrilling, rewarding, and filled with passion. But it's also challenging and intense, you know, but I don't know. I do feel, I know, I don't to be schmaltzy, but I feel very blessed. I feel music has given me from a very ordinary background. Well, I don't know quite what, that's not a nice word, but you know what I mean. But, you know, I've traveled with it. I've not taken a year out like you did. That would have been a lovely thing to do. But I think some of the things I've done and been involved in performances in other countries. I've also coached and done work with theatre music in Sweden and in Denmark and States, lots of different places. And to see, and actually I just did We Will Rock You actually in Romania, and they'd never ever had anything like that there. And I went over there and helped them audition and gave them some exercises and went back about 3 months later. And those actors had worked so hard, you know, it was really gratifying because it made my work look good, but it wasn't me, it was them. They'd really worked at what I'd asked them to do. And, you know, I was thrilled to find how well they were. And to watch that audience, which were in a huge emporium where before they'd had communist speeches, and this was the first time anything like that had been there. It was an extraordinary experience. Sorry, I thought I'd just tell you that. I just remembered it, and that was wonderful. And seeing people, you know, having never seen anything like that before, so excited, and they stood up and cheered, and they said they'd never seen that any concert ever in Romania. So, you know, in a way, that's transforming, isn't it? In a way, culturally, people that aren't used to perhaps showing their emotions like that. Collectively, that's how they showed it. That's what they told me.
Oh, incredible. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Now, it's, again, it's beautiful, I think, to see the passion from yourself, and similarly, seen with Shlomi and Armov. I think it's fantastic work that all three of you have done, doing, and experiences between you all. And despite the differences in sort of the areas within music that you're working on, that collectively it's fantastic to hear, and really appreciate what you've been sharing with us. Along the sort of same lines of around coaching and teaching, we've got a special guest. This will be an interesting, I think, working from home sort of experience. Cici Sami, a special guest, will be joining us. I think she might be calling through Madeline. I'm not sure if she can.
She was online and she was listening very carefully, but I've just literally missed her. So I'm hoping that she will come back online again. So what we will do, we'll open it up for questions. We've got some young people online as well. So let's have questions. And then when Cici comes back online again, we'll get her to speak.
May I just say one thing I forgot? I'm involved in two things, which is WAC Arts, you might know about, Bellside Park, which is a place to help people, yes. And also the Mousetrap Trust that takes people from backgrounds of schools and things. They do writing musicals, and they also take them and that's charities that actually would be supportive of the, not doing exactly what you were doing, but similar. So if anybody's in London, that's two more places in North London, WAC Arts and also the Mousetrap Trust.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Okay. I don't seem to see the questions on my screen. With my internet, it's loading. Not sure if you're able to see the questions where on your screen when you are, Madeline. You might be on mute, sorry.
No, I'm not seeing any questions, but I want to put it out to kind of open it out to the floor now and see if anyone has any questions. Angel, have you got a question? I can see you looking very eager. We've got Angel, we've got Nia, is Kai there as well? Any one of you guys got any questions to ask? Because I've got some questions, but I don't want to start asking my questions before anybody has the opportunity to ask questions. Shana, do you have a question? No. Okay, so let me start shooting off with my question. I think I'll start with the last speaker and Mary. And I feel as you were speaking, everything, I was just like, oh my God, just keep talking, because I was just getting carried away with everything you're saying, definitely. And I think one thing you said in regards to classical music, I can definitely identify not in a sense of playing classical music or being brought up listening to classical music, but it's more in a sense of that whole full band and being around them, and how the whole, when you have all the various instruments come together to be able to play, and really just having that feel and experience. And I remember one time I got to sing with a full band like that, and that was something else. That was, oh gosh, I think that was back in 2012. I was invited to come and sing, and I got to sing. I had to sing the cover to Whitney Houston. I've totally forgotten the song she sang. And just having the whole full band behind me, it felt like something I'd never experienced before in my life, because all along I've always been doing backing track or band, which is primarily the keyboardist, the drummer, and the guitarist. But my question is, especially for young people who are very much into kind of like urban music, for me, it's sad, because I feel like they're being deprived of having that beauty, because there's no way, I don't know how to explain it. It's a different feel, just having that full band behind you. It's a totally different feel completely. My question is, what more can be done to kind of attract people? Because you talked about the genre and the different genre, because for me, it's key. I think it's key to have that fusion of genres and just not sticking to one particular genre, because that's where the beauty lies. What more can be done, do you think, in your opinion, to kind of help young people, especially those who are kind of fixated in one particular genre, to mix it up a bit?
Well, it's education, really, isn't it? School, isn't it, really? I mean, I think it's an interesting question. You just have to be exposed to it. It's as simple as that. That's what my point. They used to have concerts where they brought people in from school to listen to different things. There are lots of it. I think, is it enough to just play somebody recording? It's actually to be there, isn't there? I mean, around London, from time to time, when you look, there are lots of things. If you look, it sounds weird, but in churches, it's not all church music. And there are lots of free things you can go to if you really look for them.
Yeah, most
But
definitely.
I can't think of anything clever to say rather than it's an education thing, and music in schools is being marginalized more and more and more, which is why I mentioned the Mousetrap Trust that I was a patron of. Actually goes into schools and helps people write music. And people, by the way, while I think about it, if I can help you at all and come and do a workshop or something, I'm very happy to.
That would be fantastic.
It's some point, if that's useful, while I think about it. But I think that and it's encouraging people to listen to something else, actually. I mean, sometimes some of the people that I work with who write their own music, which that's his genre. Cece does much more of the chart people than I do. I don't do that. Well, they're in the charts, but I write people who all write their own music. I wouldn't be good at working with another kind of pop because it's not I particularly enjoy. So everybody I have writes their own music, and I quite often give them recordings or suggest things that they listen to, and they often sign that they hear a chord that they might not have heard before, and it gives them an idea, and they then start to experiment. But it doesn't really answer your question, does it really? Except just to make sure that they're exposed to it, that's all.
Shalomi, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Sorry to barge in. I just because I can wear my teacher hat because I also teach piano and trumpet, guitar in my spare time, and I just wanted a few things popped into my mind really when you asked the question. I thought, first of all, I'm not so clear if I know what urban music is because I'm quite old. By now I've kind of lost touch with new music, but maybe is it close to rap and that sort of hip hop, and is it around that genre?
I can give you an answer, but I want the guys to answer. Come on, guys, why are we shy here? Let's come.
I'm desperate to hear one of the young ones speaking. Can I hear?
Volunteer?
Do they have a voice? I need to hear their voice.
Smiling. Come on, girl. You unmute yourself.
What is urban music? Is it rap? Is it hip hop, or is it?
Or Nia, do you want to
completely different?
Go on, Angel. You two. You answer. What's urban music? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. No.
Hi, it's Nia.
Hi.
I'm not exactly sure what urban music means, or I'm sure Google will have a definition for you guys. But I would suggest it means just any type of modern music. And maybe it's not so mainstream, as in it will just talk about or sing, rap about whatever is their truth, which can be good and bad.
So are there beats and samples in the background? I'm not seem to know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's beats and samples in the background.
Urban music is pretty much, I don't understand why it's been labeled as such, most likely in order to circumvent the racial implications of it. But urban music actually quite often refers to African American or music that was created by minority population. So it doesn't only refer to African American music like R&B,
okay, fair enough,
and neo soul. It might also refer to reggae and island music. So it's
I would
another one of those genre labels created by the industry, I believe, in order to create a niche market to profit off.
Well, I wonder if...
I've got Google here. Do we want to hear what Google says?
Sure.
It says, the urban contemporary music, also known as urban music, musical genre of the 1980s and 90s, defined by recordings by rhythm and blues or soul artists with broad crossover appeal. Oh God, that's not my understanding of it.
I mean,
it can describe a broad mix of R&B, hip hop, disco, rap, and everything from James Brown to Dinah Shore. There you go.
So I started the conversation that seems to have no end. I just wanted to say that I wonder if for young people nowadays, because you see, when we were growing up, I mean, I consider myself an old-fashioned teacher, like you, Mary, and we all started with classical music. I mean, that's how I was trained. I was trained classically, if you want to put labels on it. And then I found myself a 15 or 16-year-old thinking that I can't stand jazz music. But then 3 years later, I was like, why didn't no one ever tell me what jazz was about? You know, where have I been all this time? So I kind of missed the train, or I thought I missed the train. But it seems, I wonder, because when I hear urban music or R&B or hip hop, whatever it is, sometimes it appeals to me because of the use of classical, concepts or motifs in the background. And then there's a singer, and they use a lot of Bach, right? Johann Sebastian Bach in their recording. Sometimes you'll hear that. And then you have the rapper on the top, or if it's urban music that I'm kind of having in mind. And so I wouldn't say that it's separated from it. I think it's a continuation. And I wonder if in a young person's world, that's a safe place to start, a place that they're giving a voice, someone is kind of speaking the truth for them, as Nia was saying, and maybe later on they can part from it, or they can expand when they're ready. I don't know, just a thought.
Sorry, Ahmad.
Well, I was gonna say, in terms of the particular usage of the term urban, perhaps I think the allusion is to music that was commercialized within a city. You see, look, this might be the same thing in the UK, but in America, the breeding ground or the experimental area where a lot of music, R&B music, soul music was created was actually on the bandstand in the city. Big cities like Chicago, New York, LA. This is where those sounds developed. So I think that's why the term urban comes in, is because that's where it was developed. So that might also explain why it's so broad. It doesn't necessarily refer to one specific genre. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Like urban music, right?
No, it does.
Country music would mean a different thing, right? So that's, I think, where it's getting at.
I think it's looking at its roots, actually.
Right.
Yeah, and for Armav, just to come to you now, when you were speaking, you could see how the way you spoke. I love the way you spoke, because you spoke with so much passion, and you could see that this music in you are one. And you talk about obviously having your colleagues that you're performing on a daily basis. So how are you finding that? Yes, with COVID and lockdown, you're not able to have that conventional concerts and gigs. But are you? So I guess it's twofold now. Are you still having some form of presentation in America that's different to what's happening over here in UK? That's the first question. But second of all, you talked about obviously where you're from. Does your culture play a part with your music as well? And is it important?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, on the COVID thing, as you know, the United States has their federal mandates, and it has also, there's stuff that they do on the local level, on the state level. So whereas California right now is completely locked down, pretty much, with very, very, very few exceptions. Texas is not in a lockdown. So in Houston right now, I can actually, there actually are some mini festivals. I was about to say there are no festivals, but then I remembered I played one the other day. But the point is that, yes, I do have an opportunity to actually go out and play this music, you know, and then knock on wood, nobody gets COVID. So far, my colleagues are very healthy. Everyone that I know in my circle is healthy. So that is a huge, huge blessing that I'm able to do that. I don't know what I would do without it, honestly. You know, I guess I could continue making my Instagram, YouTube videos, but that's, as Mary said it, like live music, there's no comparison to hearing the beat and feeling the beat in your body. Nothing is going to replace that. So now the second question, music in my culture. Well, I think music is important, and it definitely, like, you know, I was about to say, for example, you know, maybe some cultures are a little more musically inclined than others, but if you think about it, not really. I mean, you know, if you look at let's just say, let's make a dichotomy, a tribe and how they play music versus, I don't know, city folks and how they play music or whatever. You know, two different areas of existence, two different classes or whatever. But again, integral is the music. You go to an uppity class, you know, area, and what the music is doing there is providing the ambiance, is providing the status feel, is providing the entertainment, the aura, whatever. But then if you go to, you know, less well-off people, music is still, it's ritualistic. It's part of their day-to-day lives. It's part of their wedding ceremonies, their death ceremonies, their youth ceremonies, blah, 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 blah. So in my culture, the music is extremely integral to the family unit. It's kind of like everyone in the family basically is expected to play a little bit of something. You know what I mean? Especially because of the influence of Soviet classical teaching, where pretty much everyone has experienced some form of classical Soviet teaching in Russia. Maybe not so much today, but definitely right around when I was born and my parents' age. Everyone has been. So there would be no nucleic family part of the culture. There would be no the big, I mean, look, I don't know if they do this so much in the UK, but I just remember growing up and you could start an entire party with your neighbors just off playing some music, just by going outside with your instrument and improvising lightly with each other. So to make a long point short, music was the way that people really socialized. It was one of the main ways in which people socialized in my culture.
Okay, so I've got two questions here from Angel. Unfortunately, her mic's not working. So this is for everyone, all the panelists. The first question she's asked is, from a musician's point of view, how can we encourage youths to express themselves throughout music, through ways other than just inviting them to music therapy? So let me read both of them, then we can tackle both. I can read it again if we need to understand the question.
Can you repeat it, please?
Okay, the first question, from a musician's point of view, how can we encourage youths to express themselves throughout music, through ways other than just inviting them to music therapy? So that's the first question. The second question she's asked is, there are many negative lyrics on top of music nowadays. How do one of the speakers feel about good music being tarnished with inappropriate and negative lyrics?
Oh, that one is something. You know, if I may briefly address the second one. I remember when I was giving my introductory statements, I mentioned that music is actually a form of mind control. I don't want to seem like facetious in saying this. I'm very dead serious when I say that. So on a political level, every great government is aware of using entertainment in order to supplicate or sort of control its masses. It's been done for thousands of years. You would be a fool to be governing a large group of people and not thinking about how to use music to do that, right? So even if I may, and this is a sensitive example, but if I may, but it's a good example. So the contemporary philosopher Slavoj Žižek mentions how the Third Reich appropriated the music of Beethoven, the symphonic music of Beethoven, in order to rally its people, in order to get them pumped for what they were going for what the regime was going for. Beethoven's music is not, by itself is just pure. You understand what I'm saying? By itself, the music is it's not corrupt, but it can be used because it's a pure medium for energy of any sort. It can be used for anything. So I think, why is there terrible lyrics in music now? Because you need to sell things. You need to sell sex. You need to sell, there's so many products that in so many companies in competition with each other. What provides the fuel for this economy is an obsession to materialistic things. And what better way to hypnotize the people to be obsessed with materialism than through music? Can you guys think of a better way? If we're talking about rolling Benjamins and gold necklaces on a daily basis and all that stuff that comes with it, guess what? That's the stuff people will be pouring their money into.
That's well said.
So that's my take on that. Thank you.
So does anyone want to tackle the first question? Let me repeat the first question again. She said, from a musician's point of view, how can we encourage youth to express themselves through music, other than just inviting them to music therapy?
I think it can be through movement. It can be through movement. I'm not talking about dance. I often think people, if you ask them just to move to music, that's sometimes very freeing. That's just something I've noticed. If you haven't got, I'm not talking about dance, you can do all kinds of things. You can be throwing balls in the air. I don't know whether that sounds, I'm just talking about if you had a workshop kind of thing. So it's not something perhaps is an answer, but I've noticed that when people respond to music physically, that can be very releasing. Anybody else notice that?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, having to, you must encourage people to, I think we were better about this in our earlier days of human history, in allowing music to take control momentarily and to let your body move. But with thousands of years of societal development, and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that, and this is etiquette and blah blah blah, I'm seeing a gradual decrease in how people are involved in live music. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, you have to tell people, like, yo, you can come dance on the stage, by the way. Like, this is supposed to get you moving, by the way. Like, we aren't here just for ourselves. Like, so encouraging people to move, like, that's a big thing. But I would say, moreover, people, go see live music. You're not going to regret it. Go see live music, seriously. But yeah.
I wonder if there is a way, I don't know what exists out there, and that's my ignorance, but since music relief seems to be providing a lot of different outlets for young people, I wonder if there's any in Croydon, for example. Is there like a center, like an open sort of afternoon club for young people to come and play music, learn music, come together, toss ideas, explore different levels of skills with music, different instruments, and it's all kind of free local authority funded, or I don't know, one of those things. Does it exist? Because I'm thinking that would have been a dream place for me growing up as a young person, and I had that sort of, but in a posh way. The conservatoire was quite a elite, sort of actually made a lot of Russian, classical teachers. It wasn't exactly what I'm talking about, and I think young people nowadays are kind of in need for sort of safe places for self-expression. So I wonder if that exists in Croydon and elsewhere that you're aware of.
Yeah, so Angel rightly put down, there's Nordoff Robbins near the Brit School, because the Brit School is in Croydon.
Oh, I visited that place.
Yeah, there is the Legacy. Legacy is a youth zone, which is also in Croydon. So with Legacy, you has the studio. So I think I'm going to have a follow-up to my initial question. I know I'm mindful of time that we're 4 minutes out already, and I really want us to cap shortly. But I want to ask this question while we're here, in regards, just kind of following on from what we've been saying. There's obviously live music that many of, like yourself, Shalomi, and Mary has kind of grown up with, and I guess Armov as well. But there's also, I guess, synthetic music, studio music. So my question is, knowing fully well, for me, having known live music and the beauty of all that happens there, and then going into the studio and seeing how the studio it's able to kind of, as much as it possibly can, reach live experience. How can we kind of fuse that in your knowledge, or if you can shed some light into it? How can these two be fused together to attract young people? I think it's kind of similar to my first question, to attract more young people into coming out of their particular bubble. Because for me, I find that so many young people are in this kind of bubble, and this is the music, and this is the sound, and this is the style. When there's so many different sounds out there that you can just fuse it together and come up with something totally different. How do you think we can attract more young people into a different style of music? And kind of leaning in a bit to Angel's question about the negative lyrics that is normally pumping out there, just going out all the time. How do you think, I guess this would be your kind of parting messages to us. Let me simplify it. In your opinion, is there a way we can get young people to become even more enticed with a different style of music that they're not necessarily used to, that may not necessarily be created within the studio?
But the only way is to give them the opportunity to go to live music and see lots of different things. You can't say you must listen to this and you must listen to that. I mean, GCSE O-level probably does it, in other kind of exams. But I think that's the only way. It really is up to the government to go back to funding schools to go in and listen to some of those things. I mean, I know they won't, but that's what should happen. Or schools organising school trips. I can't think of anything else. Or finding, I mean, for example, we've got the Fairfield Halls at Croydon. Now it's all being revamped. I mean, why can't they have an amount attached to what you do? Why can't they give, for example, 20 very subsidised tickets every time they have a concert? So you start in a small way with people, which would spread, would say, I went to this, I really enjoyed it, why don't you come? I mean, that's what you could try.
Yeah.
You could try that.
I think the burden is on the musicians. Here's why. We cannot wait for our governments to make decisions all the time, vis-a-vis music, blah blah blah. Listen, there are people lobbying every day for things that have nothing to do with music. There's people lobbying for all sorts of powers and all sorts of this and that. Listen, if we sit around and wait for cheaper tickets subsidized by governments or government programs, we might be here waiting for a long time. So each musician should kind of be their own best marketer and make music seem like a super fun thing to be part of. You know what I'm saying? I'll just give you my example. Like some of the more creative material I make in the studio was musifying or songifying people speaking. So I'll take speeches that I find like really, really like musical by just the enunciation and the tone that people use. And then first I'll transcribe it. I'll play it on my instrument, you know, verbatim, what they're saying. And then I'll remix it into a song. Yeah. My whole point was that is to show the magic in the music and how it's in everything and how it's in how we speak. You know what I'm saying? It's not, when we're talking, we're actually like making melodies, you know? So that is my little way of marketing music and creating that magic. So we need to figure out as musicians what we can do. Right.
I wasn't suggesting that the government would do that. I was just saying there is a local hall in Croydon, and I think they have lots of concerts, and I think it's up to there to give them away.
Absolutely. And that wasn't like I'm not like
no, but you're right. But you're right.
Yeah,
I love what you're saying, and I know that kind of work. It's fascinating. Really good.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I don't know. I mean, you know, I may be a little bit out of touch with nowadays music or urban music in particular, and maybe there's a lot of junk out there. Maybe there's a lot of stuff that, you know, young people shouldn't be exposed to. I don't know. Probably in every genre. Like if you really look for it, you'll probably find bad things. I don't know, but my message is that because when I was 15 or 13, when someone gave me a tape cassette of the Beatles, and I discovered the Beatles, and I became like this groupie for like the next decade. No one could ever convince me to listen to anything else apart from the Beatles. So when I look at your website and I see some of these young people rap away and rhyme so quickly, and they're doing it with such a brilliant talent. You can see it's rehearsed. You can see it's like a flamenco guitar player, you know, who learned to play flamenco since the day they were born. So it's this sort of like people come to be what they feel comfortable with being. Maybe it's the one place where they feel confident. I wouldn't want to take, I mean, I'm not saying don't expose them to anything else, God forbid, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying expose them as much as possible, obviously, government, funding, free tickets, as much as possible, creating opportunities. But I'm saying maybe it's a blessing that I'm a shy musician. I've always been, and I've made my record album about a few years ago, and it was in my studio flat, you know, where I lived back then, bringing musician after musician into my flat. And that's how I did it. I never really published, I never really promoted it or played it live. And I think that's a great thing that we can actually do those things remotely. We can go into a cubicle and create brilliant music and be expressive and share it with a friend. We can be famous in our own small circles, and it's still all right. We don't need to, I mean, I was always put off by amazing musicians because it made me think whether I'm good enough to, you know, to continue my music making. So my message is, try and find a comfortable, safe place to do your music, whatever it is, and you decide what is good for you.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic. I think we're going to call it a day there, but just to kind of wrap up everything and from every single one of you, I think for me, one of the takeaway is the fact that when something is within, it's not forced. You can see it comes out naturally. And I think with Angel's question about young people and the negativity in some of the lyrics that they listen to, it's definitely about being able to, one of the key things that I've heard is about choices, being able to have choices, being exposed to several things so that people are not just kind of one mindset, set in one mind and just kind of have a myopic view of the world when there's a big wild world out there. But also it's about ensuring that your passion comes out, whatever it is, because what you are exposed to, what your environment is. We are all, I guess, is that the right word, victims of our environment, where what we're exposed to is what we then begin to exhibit. But being able to have a platform that we're able to express ourselves in manners that will help us overcome shyness, help us to express ourselves, help us to convey a message that we desperately want the world to hear, whether in a large circle, whether in a very small circle. It's very important. And so for the young people here and for others who are going to also listen to this as well, I feel one of the best things to do is definitely be true to yourself. That's the number one thing. And just let your passion run through. And also to just say, regardless of whatever, culture has a part to play. So, because sometimes people tend to want to ignore that in order for them to kind of fit into a particular bubble. But whatever it is, wherever you come from, it will manifest in one way or the other through music. And with that being said, I really want to say thank you to yourself, Arnav, all the way from the States. We really appreciate you coming online. Shalomi, Mary, to Nia, to Angel, to Kai, to everybody, to Cece as well. She's away from home, so she did say that Wi-Fi connection is really, really terrible. She was listening, but unfortunately she dropped out. But she's also offered us generously some copies of books that she's written. It's about encouraging and supporting. So these books, where she's going to be sending it to us in the office, and then it will be available for us to send out to the young people. But please, to the three speakers who are online, thank you so much, Mary, for offering to support the work we do. We really appreciate you. We'll definitely be taking you up on that. But also to the other speakers as well, we thank you. We appreciate you. This is not just a one-off thing. It's for us to see, okay, this is the beginning of a discussion. Let's see how we can obviously engage more, because I am very keen to ensure that that whole fusion of different music styles, especially when I got exposed to it, it's still ringing in my head, and I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to ensure that that is exposed to the young people, I guess young people of Croydon and young people that engage with Music Relief. But also to Julian as well, who has hosted tonight's event. Thank you so much. You've done a fantastic job. And Shana, you've got so much stuff to put out there on social media, so we're gonna be seeing all this wonderful stuff. And yes, thank you, Nia, and everybody else. So everybody, thank you so much. Have a good evening. And please, please, please remember what I've said already. This is just the beginning. There's so much more that we can do together. So could I ask Julian and Shauna to hold on whilst everybody obviously takes their leave? Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Sean, everybody, thank you.
Bye, Arno.